Alright, another holiday video. I'll just play it in pieces and then comment as we progress in his characterization, his mischaracterization again. So he's conceding the existence of the good and the bad, but he just keeps saying good to self. Self is this word here. So and self here. So he just keeps trying to internalize the experience to an individual and ignore it as a factual event. So my argument is the experience isn't just happening in my brain, it's happening in the universe. And if you were to accurately describe what's happening in the universe and not include description of conscious experiences as part of that description, then you wouldn't be accurately describing the universe. A highly significant event in the universe are the experiences happening in brains. It's really not subject to internal interpretation. These are universal facts, facts of the universe, not just facts in the locality of a brain. The fact goes beyond the existence in just one corner or one piece of the universe. It is a fact in the universe. So, what I'm saying, these are the premises. Experiences happen. Okay? They don't not happen. They don't happen to selves. They don't happen blah blah blah. And all these qualifiers. They happen. Of course, they do have to happen in brains, but that's a later fact. But yes, they happen. It's a fact. Okay? Conscious, let's put the word conscious in front of experiences just for the sake of argument. Conscious experiences happen. They're happening in the universe. An accurate description of the universe would say it is a fact that conscious experiences are happening. 2. Experiences have a qualitative aspect. They have quality. They create positive and negative by having a quality. Alright? It's right there. Qualitative. Experiences are qualitative. It's a fact. They have the flavor of good, bad, positive, negative. Do again, don't do again. These are qualities of experiences created by the experience itself. Not judgment about the experience, not qualifiers of the experience. The experience itself has the quality. It doesn't need to be acknowledged by a witness. It doesn't need to be stated. It doesn't need any of that crap. It is by its very existence qualitative. The quality is built into the experience. It's a fact of the universe. It must be stated. If you're going to accurately describe the universe, you would have to describe the fact that experiences, conscious experiences, come in the flavor of repulsive, repugnant, avoidable, and calming, pleasurable, comforting. These are qualities of experiences. Fact number 3. Brains make conscious experience. Not selves, not brains make conscious experiences. Without brain, there is no experience. Brains make the experiences happen. Brains create the good, the bad, and they happen. The bad and the good happens in the universe through these simple 3 fucking, whoops, excuse my French, facts. Now, ethics is figuring out the mathematics of the exchanges being made between the different brains and circumstances. On the broadest scale, okay, the biggest playing field there is the net experience of all sentient life on earth. Every minute of every day, there are experiences happening in brains. Those experiences have positive or negative qualitative character, aspect. And there's a total that could be accounted if you had such a capacity. It would be something you could put in a register. Little organism A is experiencing pain at this minute. Negative. Other organism is quite comfortable eating yummy yummy. Put in that category. That you could categorize the experiences in the broad categories of good or bad, comfortable, not comfortable. It gets a little more complicated because ultimately the good and the bad are conditional words, where the good may well just be the absence of bad, which is kind of a catch-22. But anyway, not arguing that point at this point. So the biggest part, the biggest game field we're playing on is the net experience of all sentient life. So the broadest perspective would include the condition of all feeling experience and what is its net flavor. When you mix it all together, what do you have in terms of a good or bad, a positive or a negative net product? And the different equations for the different species or the different gangs or the different groups, their net qualitative contribution to that state would be the discussion of ethics. How many sentients did they harm versus how much pleasure did they derive, blah blah blah. That would be the nature of ethics, and the nature of ethics would be finding the peak performance for the individual players in maximizing this net experience number and keeping the negatives as low as possible while maximizing whatever gain, real gain, there is to be had. So again, this to-self part is absolutely, it's number one, it's redundant. Of course, experience happens to individual brains. That is a stated conditional. Brains make consciousness. Brains make experiences. But you do not need a brain to validate the existence of an experience. All that has to happen is the organism has to be conscious, sensitive, and in pain for there to be a negative conscious experience moment. Okay. But, like I said, there's nowhere to go. Once you start with this to-self shit, you're closing the door to this being a description of reality. It's a description of what's happening in the universe. I am not describing what's happening to individuals. Although the individuals are obviously making the experiences. It's just quite obvious to themselves there's negative happening in themselves. The point is, for ethics to work, we have to count what's happening to all the selves. Jesus. This really shouldn't require this. So find fault with one of these facts that don't have the word self anywhere in them. Description of reality. An accurate description of reality must include description of sentient experience. It's happening, not just to selves. It's happening in the universe. Oh, gee, he just perverts everything. So anyway, he's basically, so he says, okay, there's the good of my team wins the football game, but he concedes that somebody else's team loses, and so he stops with that comparison. Then he says intrinsic good. He says he can't find one of these intrinsic goods. And that's exactly my point. And so he brings up my golden egg thing. Well, my golden egg example, I did use the antimatter example that it's completely a conditional good. It only exists if there's no anti-egg to destroy it or antimatter to destroy it. destroy its value. And what I'm arguing is there's clearly intrinsic goods in eliminating a bad. So yes, you're agreeing with me. There is no good outside of eliminating bad. So I don't think you could write down here, it's not intrinsically good to eliminate a bad. I don't think you could say that's not intrinsically good. If I cause somebody less pain or less suffering, suffering that was unnecessary, that created that there was no improvement in any other person's condition but the person we're curing, and it just alleviates in them a level of suffering, and it affects no one else in any other way in terms of the balance of suffering, that clearly it would be good to reduce the amount of suffering. It's just in and of itself a good thing to get rid of a bad thing. That's the intrinsic good. The bad is the intrinsic bad. There is no intrinsic good, and the only good there is mitigating against bad, protecting against bad, curing disease, preventing harm. Doing something to prevent the negative thing from happening is intrinsically good. Yeah. Enough of a qualification. Well, I'll play this part. What the hell? Because it's just the same old crap, really. Here we go again.
Of good and bad. For itself,
so we just
I don't see how
itself.
You make the leap to say that their events are bad for me. Yeah, one of these.
Right. I'll let them go a little further.
Is bad for me.
Again, I'm not saying it's bad for you. What I'm saying is this is logic. I said this is something that logic imposes. There's no bad for you. Nobody's going to force you to feel their pain. Nobody's going to force you to care. Nobody's going to do any of that. I'm saying it's a logical requirement of once you've acknowledged the fact that the quality exists, that it's being created by the conscious experience. What I'm saying is the balance number, the idea, okay, of profit and loss, the idea of more positive than negative, the fact that there is an equal sign and that there is an equation and that there is a balance, a net balance product, okay, is just a fact. Now you can either acknowledge the truth of the economics or you don't have to. Okay, it's not bad for a rich man to be rich for him personally, but I would argue that what he certainly is doing is bad by hoarding the resources, by denying the public use of the surplus he is gaining possession of, and hoarding. His hoarding of resources is bad for sentient life on planet Earth. He's breaking the balance. He's making for the possibility of more negative than positive. Okay, he personally isn't going to feel it. He personally is not going to be living that experience. He'll say, I have a wonderful swimming pool and a mansion and a yacht, and I have a wonderful life. Yeah, the sun is shining on me. Yeah, he's not going to personally feel what he's causing in the other organisms. Mangala didn't feel their pain. It wasn't bad for Mangala. Okay, it was bad for sentient life to have a Mangala. He was incredibly unproductive in the production of positive and negative. He created a ton of negative, no justifying positive, and was a blight on the sentient life on planet Earth. He was a motherfucking piece of shit because of it. But he didn't experience that. I really shouldn't have to explain this. I really shouldn't. There's no justice in the universe. We are the only thing that can make justice. You're not going to feel your impact. You're going to either understand your impact or not. I mean, a criminal can sneak up behind somebody, whack them with a brick, okay, and not feel any badness at all. But he just did something bad. I didn't pre-watch this video. I didn't think he was going to say one, I don't know, insane thing after another. So he's not counter-arguing my argument again. He's just saying, I don't believe, which, frankly, isn't a useful counter-argument. So here we go with some more I don't believe stuff.
and our events into here, and then you say our purpose is to play the game of minimising the number of blotches in this red bad box.
Yeah, as I'm clearly saying, the qualitative aspect of the experience is built into the experience. It doesn't matter who produces the experience, it just matters what the net experiences are. That is a fact of the reality of the circumstance. And if you don't understand that there's a difference between having unnecessary suffering and not having unnecessary suffering, and that there's a value increase in avoiding the unnecessary suffering, then I have no help for you. You are a sociopath. You are insane, in my opinion. You don't understand even you are denying your own personal experience in the fact that you have definitely valued these experiences. You're just not valuing them when they're happening in the rest of the world. You're just simply disconnecting everything else and just saying what matters to me. Well, what matters to you will not have anything to do with this unless you make it have something to do with this. You will not understand if you choose not to understand that your experiences are not the only experiences happening in the universe.
The point is, well, I don't believe there is such a purpose to life. I believe I get to assign my own purposes in life.
Well, again, the word purpose is only being used. I'm not claiming a purpose beyond the fact that I'm saying, all right, that the net value of your experience, like the Mengele example, you fail at life if you cause more harm, okay, than you eliminated in the world. So if you left the world dirtier than you got it, so to speak, if you did not improve its condition by existing, that is, improve the amount of comfort in the world versus the amount of pain in the world through your existence, that your existence is a failure. You have failed to perform the necessary standard of being called a good thing, and you were in fact a bad thing because you left the condition of the system in net deprivation. You left it in a negative condition. And that's the true value of your life. Regardless of what they say at your eulogy, you are or are not a success or a failure based on the condition of the world as a result of your presence.
And the truth of the matter is, this does not exist. In actual reality, you're not actually creating. So, in this context, we also have value. In saying that this is good, we are also saying that we value this state. And the value refers to the contrast between these two positions.
Not the contrast between them. No, sorry.
Still
no, stop it. No, it's not the contrast between them. It is the fact that they undo, okay, that they have the effect of creating what might be considered a compensation. Like I said, I would like to argue from the negative condition. I gave you a positive conditioned example just as giving you the benefit of the doubt of creating the golden egg that's destroyed by the negative. But the truth is the negative is the enduring thing, and there is no real positive value to ever compensate for any of the negatives, so that's why life is even more preposterously a failure, is because your comfort already used up the value. You've already used up the value of your comfort by experiencing comfort. You've already been relieved of a negative condition, okay, and you've already used up the value of it. You can't use your comfort to ease someone else's pain. Their pain is still a fact, and your comfort will not undo it.
Valuable to self is the way I see it.
Well, again, I have no regard for this. The self is irrelevant to the production of the egg value. The value is a fact of the universe. The fact that the experiences happen is a fact. It's not terribly important. It's not even minorly relevant who the experiences happen to. It's only relevant that they happen. And only when you get into the minutia of real internal, very specific elements of the balance game is it at all important who is experiencing what. The only point that matters is how much of this red shit is there versus how much of this comfort shit.
No, and similarly for the animal, it has value. It values.
Again, it values is, you don't say that when you're describing the universe. It values. Okay, these are facts that are in the universe. You're just saying I'm going to negate their existence as meaningful facts. You're saying it's not a meaningful fact that conscious organisms experience. It's only meaningful to the tiny organism experiencing, and that it has no meaning on any other scale. We can't see it in overview. We can't understand it as part of the model of life on Earth, or the model of the solar system, or the model of the universe. We don't have to account for sentient experience, because you're saying it's somehow contained in a self in terms of its mattering. Its mattering somehow doesn't extend anywhere as a fact. And my argument is it has nothing to do with this to-self shit. It has to do with the experience itself. The experience has the quality. The judgment about the experience is pretty much irrelevant. The experience is the only thing that has any qualitative meaning. Your opinion of the experience is another opinion. Okay, it's another experience, but it's another separate experience. It is not the experience that you're judging.
For itself. I certainly, and the truth of the matter is, certainly as I see it, just like there's nothing concrete, even, generated in the abstract theatre of consciousness. Consciousness boils down to...
Yeah, again, you can describe your consciousness any way you wish to, okay? My personal experience with consciousness is it's as concrete as motherfucking hell. Alright? It is the realest thing in the universe, in my opinion. It's realer than wet water, it's realer than air, it's realer than anything I encounter in this fucking universe is sentient experience. It's the most powerful, the most... it's the only, you know what I'm saying? It's like the gravity thing. It's the only thing that has value, gravity. And we, because we're perceptive and smart, can see the value, gravity. Alright? Other organisms can't see it. Other things can't recognize it. The universe doesn't have an opinion on it. We can see it with our logical brain, and we can understand that when we draw a picture of planet Earth, we can't just say the sentient beings are just like rocks. Sensation is the same as rolling down a hill. That would be a preposterous under-description of the reality. And I would certainly say it's preposterous from my personal experience being a sentient. Even if I wasn't sentient, I think I would be logical enough to look at planet Earth and say there's something going on in brains, okay, that's more complicated than rolling down a hill.
To an intricate connectome of neural connections, right?
Again, so you say I'm going to agree with the premises, and now you're saying I'm not agreeing with the premises. So there's no point. You're saying I'm not going to give experiential, qualitative experience any value outside of the brain in which it's in, and it has no meaning in any description of reality. I'm saying that's nonsense. It really happens in the real universe. It's part of the universe, and if you don't describe it, you're denying its existence, and it does fucking exist. Qualitative states do exist. They must be accounted for if you're going to do rational logic, if you're going to rationally describe what's happening in the universe. To discount or ignore consciousness is to ignore the biggest, baddest baby of them all.
Whatever we feel and express ultimately has physicality. And even if we say what is created is real in the sense that this neural configuration equals good or bad.
Yeah, again, this is supposed to be something you accepted as a premise to the argument. So again, you want to go back and argue whether material things can create non-material relationships that have substance. some quality that must be acknowledged by someone who's going to be a fair cop in describing the reality. I'm saying if you're going to model the universe and take out of the model the significance of sentience, okay, you have an incomplete, inaccurate, and in my opinion preposterous model. The model is no longer even close to being realistic if you negate sentience as a fundamental, primary, hugely important, profoundly significant, let's just say profoundly significant feature of what's happening to chemistry in this universe. A profoundly important feature of what's happening to chemistry in this universe is the manifestation of consciousness in sentient brains.
Similarly, we're saying there is a similarly meaningful neural connection.
I'm saying I'm experiencing it, you motherfucker. Again, I just can't get past this. I'm conscious. I don't know what the fuck you are, but I'm fucking conscious, okay? Conscious as motherfucking hell. And I'm telling you, there's a dramatic qualitative difference, okay, between telephone pole up my ass and chocolate cupcake. These experiences are so dramatically, qualitatively different, value different, that I cannot even describe the gulf of distance between them. It's zillions of light years of value distance.
In the animal, that is good and bad. But from this position, there's still no abstract or grand, there's no grand good made.
Well, again, the good is the elimination of the bad, so again, you're still arguing it backwards, and I only gave you the benefit of the doubt of creating a positive example. Instead of using a negative utilitarian example, I used a positive utilitarian example, and it really doesn't matter. The point is, okay, is that there is a balance, okay, and the balance is ascertainable. And that's what we're trying to decide, okay? That we do have this thing called negative, and we have this thing called not negative. And however you want to mix those two is, again, that is an argument I'm willing to have. But I can't get you to the stage one where you're acknowledging the existence of at least one of these elements. You keep talking about the good now and keep ignoring the bad. So if you're agreeing with me that the good is of almost irrelevant consequence, then you still have to tell me how the bad is of non-consequence. There's no intrinsic bad. I haven't heard you say that yet.
No universal good made.
Again, the universal good is in the extraction from harm. So as soon as you extract something from harm, that's a good. You have prevented a bad. Preventing a bad, eliminating a bad, putting another line through a negative sign turns it into a positive. Yeah, when you convert a negative into a positive, that's a good.
Question is, well, a question is what exactly do you mean by good and bad in this?
I mean, this is just so idiotic. Experiences have qualitative aspect. Experiences, by their very fundamental nature, by their very fundamental quality of them, a very fundamental aspect of them, a very fundamental feature of the experience, is its quality in terms of its bad or goodness. It is built into the experience itself. It does not need to be interpreted or understood or opined on or any of that crap. It is visceral by its very function, either repulsive or attractive, either do it again or don't do it again, good or bad. By its very expression, it is expressed with the value attached.
Extrapolation of this creation. Do you accept that it's an abstract idea that you have created?
No, it's a fact. A fact. A fact. Experiences happen. Consciousness exists. It must be accounted for. Experiences have qualitative aspect. It's a biological function. It is a fact that they have this repulsive and attractive nature, and it's a fact it's built into them. It's a fact that brains create this conscious experience. These are facts. Okay, they're not an abstract. It's a factual description of our reality. These are facts in our universe. The entire universe, to be accurately described, must include a description of sentient experience. It's a significant happening in the universe. The only significant thing happening in the universe, in my opinion.
You have defined the existence of this abstract good or bad.
Again, it's not abstract. It's a fact of the experience. It's built into the experience.
And you, by that creation, generate...
Again, I didn't create it. I'm fucking describing it. I'm telling you, I have describable conscious experiences. Some are describable as awful. Some are describable as not awful. There. It's a fact.
A purpose, that is, a purpose to a gain of minimizing. No.
Yeah, minimizing negative. That's right. Okay? And hoping to maximize some sort of positive, whatever that might be.
I accept the induction from us to animals as entirely reasonable in this context. But what, and when you say, so when
yeah, so it's amazing. So he's saying, okay, yes, animals are much like human beings, but like animals, human beings don't have meaningful experiences. They're only meaningful to their brain. It's not meaningful as an event in the universe. It might as well not have happened in the universe because it has no meaning as a factual event. It only means something to the individual experiencing it. We can't understand it. We can't account for it. We can't total it. We can't account for it is the key word. We can't run a balance. We can't acknowledge its existence and record its existence. We somehow can't record its reality. Yes, of course, we can record the reality of the experience. Just as we can record what Mengele did, we can understand that it was hugely value wasteful and that it's made Mengele one hell of a son of a bitch.
When you say good, I say it's good to self. When you say it's valuable, I say it's good. It's valuable to self.
And again, this is just meaningless mush. Obviously, it's brains create conscious experience, but the qualitative aspect of the experience is built into the experience. It has nothing to do with interpretation. It has to do with the fact that that's how experience is created. The value is built into the experience.
When you say it matters, I say it matters to self. When something matters.
Again, I'm saying it matters in the sense that if you're going to be honestly describe the universe, if you're going to honestly describe what's happening in the universe, a significant event, a mattering event, okay, is happening in the sensate brains of conscious organisms.
Universally, I can only think of it has qualification. You know, I'm trying to think.
No, it is infinitely describable. It is infinitely accountable. We can see it happen to organisms. We can fully understand it's happening to organisms. We don't have to feel it. It doesn't have to matter to us personally. We can record it completely indifferently, without any emotional experience whatsoever, we can acknowledge the fact that a sensitive organism is having a sensate experience, and that's a consequence of whatever experiment we're doing. If I gave you 10 laboratory rats and I said go sew some ears on their asses, you could understand that they're going to experience some negative experiences, and that's going to be the price tag of sewing ears on their asses. And so whatever value the experiment might have is going to have to be valuable enough to justify the pain you're going to cause the rats by sewing ears on their asses. Not complicated. We can understand all of that. We can understand that you have to justify the experiment by saying we're actually going to accomplish something good. We're going to prevent harm and disease. We're going to cure people. But if you don't have that, if you just say we're doing it for the fun of it, that would make you an asshole like Mengele. Like Mengele, you'd be creating a bunch of wasted harm, a bunch of wasted negative that had no justifying purpose, and therefore you would suck.
If it doesn't matter to self, and it matters in a more universal sense, it has a qualification, I don't know, for example.
It's describable. Again, this is not about what you want reality to be. This is a description about what is happening on planet the fuck Earth.
This isn't a good example that you'd like, but the point is it does have qualification. You know, if it matters that the other team scores a goal against us, and it matters to everybody on the team, the qualification is that it matters within the understanding of that game, and those people freely choose to play that game. So the next step is for you to justify these categories. I understand.
Well, no, it's not that. There's no next step to justify categories. You just negated the existence of the meaning of the goal getting scored, okay? And again, the goal getting scored has to be something that's a fundamentally positive. And again, using somebody winning a game, okay, is not a fundamental positive unless you account for the people who lost the game. So again, there's no point in talking to me about how great it is to win the lottery unless you account for all the people who are now $10 poorer.
Can make them, but in what sense they imply a rule or an ultimate good,
I mean, if you describe the lottery based on saying, look at the grand winner, or you described a lottery by saying, look, the people who play this lottery, who buy a ticket, are essentially taxing themselves by 8.5%. Okay, so they've taxed away 8.5% of their income to play the lottery. Now, if people understood that going in, that it's essentially an 8.5% tax on their income to play the lottery, then maybe they wouldn't play the lottery.
Justify this concept. It's an abstract idea that they create these golden eggs. All these metaphors you use point to the abstract nature of what...
No, I'm sorry. It doesn't point to any abstract nature. Again, it's a qualitative aspect. I'm trying to get you to understand that it exists as a thing that actually happened. I used the eggs because I used the goose creating the eggs. And my point of the analogy was that the goose is not relevant. The relevant thing is the experience. The experience is where the value is. Okay? The self is not the value is in the experience. And it doesn't matter who's experiencing the broken leg is the enemy, not the individual possessing it. Jesus Christ. The harm is the bad. It just doesn't matter what brain is manifesting the eggs, what brain produces the eggs. That only matters when you get into the minutiae of individual exchanges between humans. But on this grander scale, the net balance is the net balance, and that's got to be the first priority, is winning the big game. If you're not winning the big game, then all the other games inside the big game are sort of irrelevant because you lost the big game.
Is generated when the truth is nothing is generated. Except,
So, right, that's your accurate description of the universe. Nothing's being generated by consciousness. Consciousness is a non-event. Nothing to see here. Again, we're back to the beginning. I'm not going to accept that as a premise. I think that's ludicrous. As somebody experiencing consciousness, I think it's just absolutely insanely ludicrous to say it's a non-event.
for ourselves, nothing is truly generated good in the universe.
So, like I said, I have no conversation for you. Don't you understand why we cannot possibly have a conversation? I'm saying the most precious thing in the universe, the only diamond that exists in the universe, is conscious. The conscious experience of sentient beings is the only thing that has any goddamn value. The rest of the universe is nonsense, rubbish, bibble-babble crap. It just doesn't fucking goddamn matter. The only thing that goddamn matters is the sentient experience, and so you're not valuing it. That means we just can't agree on anything. To not say that the most important thing happening on planet Earth is consciousness, I think is stone cold dumbass. Just as dumbass as you can get.
The fact that you say that the suffering of the animal matters, to you...
No, not to me, okay? As a function of consciousness, it's innately created by the fact that you can have experience, and that experience is fundamentally and intrinsically tainted by qualitative elements.
I say is entirely empathy-driven.
And again, I say that's just a bull-faced fucking lie. So fuck you, bigot. Alright? I have not resorted to any empathy-driven bullshit. This is a matter of acknowledging something's condition. It has nothing to do with sympathy or empathy or compassion. It has to do with accepting the fact you don't have to love a cat to know that a cat is not in a good state if you run it the fuck over. Okay? You don't have to love cats to know it's bad to run over sensitive feeling creatures. You really don't. You don't have to have one goddamn iota of motherfucking empathy to understand that sentient creatures in a bad state is not a good thing.
There's nothing intrinsic in making that connection. So...
I'm sorry, there's everything intrinsic if I can fucking understand that I wouldn't like to suffer unnecessarily. Gee, there, I figured it out. Wow, the mystery of life, I figured it out. I wouldn't like to unnecessarily suffer. I wouldn't like to be unnecessarily tortured by some motherfucking asshole rationalizing his way out of reality. You're goddamn right. I don't want to be tortured by some motherfucker who doesn't think my torture exists. Fuck him. And fuck you.
I guess it'd be great if you could clear that up.
Yeah, I don't have to clear it up. I've made it as clear as I can goddamn say it. I've said explicitly to you, I don't give a fuck about empathy. I don't give a fuck about compassion. What I'm doing is describing the fucking universe, asswipe. And it's a fact that experiences are happening to sentient brains in the fucking universe. You dim-witted motherfucker!